it was great having their support and their help and their perspective.
Right.
And because of who they were sort of in a no-fly zone as far as the Office of Special Affairs went. They were left pretty much alone. David Miscavige didn't want them coming out publicly. They hadn't said anything. They were sort of getting on with their life. And so that was a great environment for me. And, and, you know, I'm eternally thankful to them.
Is there any sort of like silver bullet or thought process that you can look back on that started off your thought process of your kind of like self-reflective thought process that helped you escape that prison of belief? Was there any sort of thing in particular you can look back at that kind of kicked that off?
Yeah. The physical violence.
Okay.
I would look at that and go, this is not what I got in Scientology for. This is not my perception of what Scientology really is. Mm-hmm. And though it's rationalized and explained away as being, various things, your own fault, or, we shouldn't be causing David Miscavige to lose his temper or whatever. It was just, it was so foreign to what I believed were the fundamental principles of Scientology. And then what really set it off was when John Sweeney was doing his reporting for Panorama on the BBC. He had spoken to a lot of people, and they had told him about Miscavige physically abusing people. Mm-hmm. And John Sweeney asked me on camera, is this true? And I denied it. And Miscavige was talking to me on the phone every day and telling me, they better not come out with any of this. This is bullshit. This had better not air, blah, 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 blah. And ultimately, I went, what am I doing? Why am I lying about this? Because John Sweeney is saying to me, I've got credible witnesses who each one of them have said that they have seen David Miscavige physically assaulting you. I'm thinking, why am I lying to protect that? Mm-hmm. Like, I had gone on TV and I had lied about various things, like about OT3 in particular. This is one of these things in Scientology, the crazy story of Xenu and the intergalactic confederacy, et cetera,
Yeah.
And Scientologists believe that that is harmful and can cause great spiritual harm to anybody
outside
who has not risen to that level in Scientology. And I firmly believed that at the time. So I was being interviewed by Katie Couric on the Today Show, and she's like, well, tell me about Xenu and, this and that. And I'm like, no such thing. And I knew that that was not the case, but I believed that this was a matter of religious conviction, that I shouldn't talk about that because it would be hurting people to do so.
It would hurt the public perception.
No, it would actually hurt people, that you could die. Hubbard says that if you're exposed to those materials before you are ready for them and have advanced through the Scientology steps preceding, that it can cause you to actually physically die. That you can, it's a long-winded explanation, but
your spirit's not ready for that kind of enlightenment.
Exactly. And that it will cause you to spin into an uncontrolled, he calls it freewheeling, of flu and disease and illness and death, body death. And I believe that I was, like, at the time, I thought that was a justifiable thing to do, that to not acknowledge that was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, lying about that was good. Then when I'm getting to this point of with John Sweeney, and I go, why am I lying about this? This just is like, yes, it's happening. If it really is happening, and this is an actual part of Scientology, like, and you know, we're a tough outfit and we're getting the job done and whatever, you know, all the other sort of things that go along with it. Why not just say that?
Mm-hmm.
Why not just admit it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I'm a tough son of a bitch, but I'm getting my job done. I got IRS exemption. I'm like, so there didn't seem to be a good, you know, rationalization for that. And that was what really, like, this gnawed at me and gnawed at me and gnawed at me. And that's why eventually I left in London. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that was sort of this last couple of weeks of my 35-year career in the Sea Organization were very intertwined with John Sweeney, BBC Panorama, and what David Miscavige was saying to me.
Yeah, and obviously you talked earlier about how you kind of feared the backlash from it, and you understood as being the head of special affairs what would be the result of you leaving, and all of the negative attention and the stalking and the harassment and all that. Is that the reason people like Tom Cruise and John Travolta haven't come out and talked about Scientology and exposed it to the level that you have, or at all? Because I remember the lady in the documentary who said she was close to John Travolta. Spanky, yeah. She worked with him forever, and she was pregnant, right? Is this the same woman?
Yes, absolutely. She
was pregnant. They took her baby from her when he was born because
she was in the RPF.
Having a baby was too much of a burden, and it would distract you from your goals in Scientology. So they took the baby to like a cadet ward or something, I believe it was called.
Exactly.
And she found her baby there malnourished, like her eye couldn't even open her eyes.
Exactly.
That fucking was a brutal story. So, and then I can't imagine someone like John Travolta seeing this happen to a close friend and just completely.
Well, John Travolta, like, I mean, the short answer to that question is if they're not out and exposing Scientology, it means they're still true believers. And John Travolta in particular has always responded to questions about that or other abuses that people have asked him about, you know, witnessing, and saying, look, I don't know about any of that. I just know Scientology has helped me, so I'm for Scientology. And he's gotten away with that for a long time and, you know, gotten away with it. I mean, that's his prerogative to say that if he wishes, that nobody follows up and goes, yeah, okay, but, you know, isn't that pretty irresponsible of you? Like, don't you think that maybe you should be concerned about what's happening with these other people who, you know, David Miscavige isn't punching you in the face, John,
right.
But what about the other people who he is? They're not like forcing you into bankruptcy, John, but what about the people who are? But, you know, generally the press goes pretty easy on Cruise and Travolta when it comes to Scientology.
Why is that?
Well, partly because they're afraid of being accused of being bigots. Because Scientology will turn around and you start having people going, well, you know, a reporter really going after them on that. And Scientology will go after the reporter and start saying, this guy's a bigot. He's, you know, he's doing, you know, would he ask Frank Sinatra about his Catholicism? Would he tell, you know, would Richard Gere be interrogated about his belief in Buddhism and blah, 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 blah. And there are all these lines. And so, you know, reporters, for the most part, are also somewhat intimidated by Scientology's reputation. And, you know, there's a couple of them who have not been. John Sweeney and Brian Seymour in Australia have said, you know, I want to ask and I will ask Tom Cruise these questions, so they get banned from any interviews. So Tom Cruise goes on a press junket for his next movie, Mission Impossible 27 or whatever it is that's coming.
Yeah.
And Brian Seymour and John Sweeney are on the list of reporters who are forbidden to participate in the press junket because they only want people that will ask them puffballs. So, I don't know. It's, you know, I'd love to have a sit down with John or Tom. And Leah and I have offered that many, many times. Leah and I have tried to get any Scientologist to talk to us, either on the Aftermath, now on the podcast. Anybody, come on, let's have a discussion.
Yeah,
you can defend whatever it is and put forth your position, but they are definitely afraid to do that. They just won't put themselves in a position where they are having to answer difficult questions. So they don't even have any spokespeople anymore.
Do you think the reason that people like John Travolta and Tom Cruise don't come out or leave Scientology is because they're afraid they have too much dirt on them from the auditing sessions?
I don't think that.
Because I know that in the documentary, again, I know there's a mention of hidden cameras in some of those because John didn't want cameras in his sessions, so they hid cameras, right?
Well, they're hidden in every auditing room, but yeah. Yes, that's true.
So you don't think there's I mean, could there be enough dirt to where
there could be? Certainly there could be. You're asking me, do I think that's the case? I don't think that's the case. I mean, I think, you know, if I was the PR person for Tom Cruise or John Travolta, I would tell them, look, the best PR you will ever get is to say, I'm no longer a Scientologist.
Oh, for sure.
And if Scientology then comes out and says, yeah, but you're fucking dogs on the side, you just go, oh, that's just Scientology. I mean, it's easy to deal with these days. Like, those guys
Which
could
one
just,
of them's fucking dogs?
those guys could just dismiss it. Or, you know, well, John Travolta, you're a homosexual who solicits men to give him blowjobs in bathhouses.
Right.
And you just go, okay.
There's worse
So
things out
what?
there, yeah.
And what if I did? So what? Like, you're not going to come to my movies? Hey, I guarantee you there will be a lot more people that will not come to your movies because you're a Scientologist than people who will not come to your movies because you gave someone a blowjob in a bathhouse.
Right.
So what do you got to lose? So I don't believe that is why. I believe they're true believers. And I believe that they are still in that mind prison of belief.